Here come a bustling among the leaves so green. Here we come a wandering, so fair to be seen. Love and joy come to you, and to you your wassail too. And God bless you and send you a happy new year. And God send you a happy new year.
One Christmas was so much like another in those years around the Seatown corner, now out of all sound except the distant speaking of the voices I sometimes hear a moment before sleep. That I can never remember whether it snowed for 6 days and 6 nights when I was 12, or whether it snowed for 12 days and 12 nights when I was 6.
All the Christmases roll down toward the two-tongued sea like a cold and headlong moon bundling down the sky that was our street. And they stop at the rim of the ice-edged fish-freezing waves. And I plunge my hands into the snow. And I bring out whatever I can find. In goes my hand into that warm-white, bell-tongued ball of holidays resting at the rim of the carol-singing sea. And out comes Mrs. Prothero and the fireman.
It was the afternoon of Christmas Eve, and I was in Mrs. Prothero's garden waiting for cats with her son Jim. It was snowing.
It was always snowing at Christmas. December, in my memory, was white as Lapland, although there were no reindeer. Oh, but there were cats, patient, cold, and callous, our hands wrapped in socks. We waited to snowball the cats, sleek and long as jaguars and horrible whiskered, spitting and snarling. They would slink and sidle over the white-backed garden walls.
And the lynx-eyed hunters, Jim and I, fur-capped and moccasin trappers from Hudson Bay,
Off Mumbles Road,
would hurl our deadly snowballs at the green of their eyes.
the wise cats never appeared, but we were so still. Eskimo-footed Arctic marksmen in the muffling silence of the eternal snows.
Eternal. Ever since Wednesday.
We never heard Mrs. Prothero's first cry from her igloo at the bottom of the garden. Or, if we heard it at all, it was to us like the far-off challenge of our enemy in gray, the neighbor's polar cat. But soon the voice grew louder.
Fire!
Cried Mrs. Prothero as she beat the dunner gong. And we ran down the garden with the snowballs in our arms toward the house, and smoke indeed was pouring out of the dining room, and the gong was bumbleating, and Mrs. Prothero was announcing ruin like a town crier in Pompeii.
Oh, this was better than all the cats and whales standing on the wall in a row. We bounded into the house, laden with snowballs, and stopped at the open door of the smoke-filled room. Something was burning all right. Perhaps it was Mr. Prothero. He always slept there after midday dinner with a newspaper over his face.
But he was just standing in the middle of the room saying,
A fine Christmas!
and smacking at the smoke with a slipper.
Call the fire brigade!
Cried Mrs. Prothero as she beat the gong.
And there won't be there. It's Christmas.
Said Mr. Prothero. There was no fire to be seen, only clouds of smoke, and Mr. Prothero standing in the middle of them, waving his slipper as though he were conducting.
Do something!
And we threw the rest of the snowballs right at the smoke. I think we missed Mr. Prothero. And we ran out of the house to the telephone box.
Let's call the police as well.
And the ambulance.
Oh, and Ernie Jenkins, he likes fires.
But all we did was call the fire brigade. And 7 And soon the fire engine came, and 3 tall men in helmets brought a hose into the house. And Mr. Prothero got out just in time before they turned it on.
Oh, nobody could have had a noisier Christmas Eve.
And when the firemen turned off the hose and were standing in the wet, smoky room, Jim's aunt, Miss Prothero, came down the stairs and peered in at them. Jim and I waited very quietly to hear what she would say to them. She always said the right thing, always. She looked at the 3 tall firemen in their shining helmets, standing among the smoke and cinders and dissolving snowballs, and she said,
"Would you like anything to read?"
Good King Wenceslas looked out on the feast of Stephen, when the snow lay round about, deep and crisp and even. Brightly shone the moon that night, though the frost was cruel, when a poor man came in sight, gathering winter fuel. Hither, page, and stand by me, if you know it telling, yonder peasant, who is he, where in bright his dwelling? Sire, he lives a goodly fence, underneath the mountain, right against the forest fence, by St. Agnes Fountain.
Years and years ago, when I was a child, when there were wolves and whales and birds the color of red flannel petticoats whisked past the harp-shaped hills, when we sang and wallowed all night and day in caves that smelled like Sunday afternoons in damp front farmhouse parlors, and we chased with the jawbones of deacons, the English, and the bears, before the motor car, before the wheel, before the duchess-faced horse, when we rode the daft and happy hills bareback. It snowed, and it snowed, but here a small boy says,
"It snowed last year too. I built a snowman, and my brother knocked it down, and I knocked him down, and then we had tea."
But that was not the same snow, I say. Our snow was not only shaken from whitewash buckets down the sky. It came shawling out of the ground and swam and drifted out of the arms and hands and bodies of the trees. Snow grew overnight on the roofs of the houses like a pure and grandfather moss, minutely ivied the walls, and settled on the postman, opening the gate like a dumb, numb thunderstorm of white, torn Christmas cards.
Were there postmen then too?
Oh, with sprinkling eyes and wind-cherried noses, on spread frozen feet they crunched up to the doors and mittened on them manfully. But all that the children could hear was a ringing of bells.
You mean the postman went rat-a-tat-tat and the doors rang?
I mean the bells the children could hear were inside them.
I only hear thunder sometimes, never bells.
There were church bells too.
Inside them?
Oh, no, no, no. And the bat-black snow-white belfries, tugged by bishops and storks. And they rang their tidings over the bandaged town, over the frozen foam of the powder and ice cream hills, over the crackling sea. It seemed that all the churches boomed for joy under my window, and the weathercocks crew for Christmas.
Get back to the postman.
They were just ordinary postmen, fond of walking and dogs and Christmas and the snow. They knocked on the doors with blue knuckles.
Ours has got a black knocker.
And they stood on the white welcome mat in the little drifted porches and huffed and puffed, making ghosts with their breath and jogging foot to foot like small boys wanting to get out.
And then the presents.
And then the presents, after the Christmas box, and the cold postman with a rose on their button nose tingled down the tea-tray slithered run of the chilly glinting hill. He went in his ice-bound boots like a man on fishmonger's slabs, He wagged his bag like a frozen camel's hump, dizzily turned the corner on one foot, and then, my God, he was gone.
Get back to the presents.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly, la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel, la 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 la. Troll the ancient Yuletide carol, la 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 la. See the blazing Yule before us, la 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 la. Strike the harp and join the chorus, la 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 la. Follow me in merry measure, la 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 la. While I tell of Yuletide's treasure, la 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 la.
Get back to the presents.
Well, there were the useful presents, engulfing mufflers of the old coach days, and mittens made for giant sloths, and scarves of a substance like silly gum that could be tug-of-war down to the galoshes.
And blinding tam-o'-shanters like patchwork tea cozies, and bunny-suited busbies, and balaclavas for victims of head-shrinking drives.
From aunts who always wore wool next to the skin, there were mustached and rasping vests that made you wonder why the aunts had any skin left at all.
And once I had a little crocheted nose bag from an aunt now, alas, no longer whinnying with us.
And pictureless books in which small boys, though warned with quotations not to, would skate on Farmer Giles' pond, and did, and drowned.
And books that told me everything about the wasp. Except why?
Get on to the useless presents.
Oh, bags of moist and many-colored jelly babies, and a folded flag.
And a false nose, and a tram conductor's cap.
And a machine that punched tickets and rang a bell.
Never a catapult?
Once, by a mistake that no one could explain, a little hatchet and a celluloid duck that when you pressed it, it made the most unduck-like sound, a mewing moo that an ambitious cat might make who wished to be a cow.
And a painting book in which I could paint the grass, the trees, the sea, and the animals any color I pleased. And still the dazzling sky blue sheep are grazing in the red field under the rainbow-billed and pea-green birds.
Hard boils, toffees, all sorts, and fudge. Crunches, cracknels, humbugs, glaciers, marzipan, and butter Welsh for the Welsh.
And troops of bright tin soldiers who, if they could not fight, would always run.
And snakes and families, and happy ladders.
And easy hobby games for little engineers, complete with instructions. Easy for Leonardo.
And a whistle to make the dog bark, to wake up the old man next door, to make him beat the wall with his stick and shake our picture off the wall.
And a packet of cigarettes. You put one in your mouth, and you stood at the corner of the street, and you waited for hours for in vain for a little old lady to spank you for smoking. And then, with a smirk, you ate it.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare in room, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the world, the Savior
women waiting or scooping back from chapel, with their tap room noses and wind-bust cheeks, all albinos, huddled their stiff black jarring feathers against the irreligious snow.
Mistletoe hung from the gas brackets in all the front parlors.
There was sherry and walnuts and bottled beer and crackers by the dessert spoons, and cats in their fur abouts watched the fires, and the high heap fire spat, all ready for the chestnuts and the mulling pokers.
Some few large men sat in the front parlors without their collars, uncles almost certainly, trying their new cigars, holding them out judiciously at arm's length, returning them to their mouths, coughing, and then holding them out again, as though waiting for the explosion.
And some few small aunts, not wanted in the kitchen, nor anywhere else for that matter, sat on the very edge of their chairs, poised and brittle, afraid to break like faded cups and saucers.
Not many of those mornings trod the piling streets, an old man always, black bowler, black glove, and at this time of year with spats of snow, would take his constitutional to the white bowling green and back, as he would take it, wet or fine, on Christmas Day or Doomsday.
And sometimes two hale young men with big pipes blazing, no overcoats and windblown scarves, would trudge unspeaking down to the forlorn sea, to work up an appetite, blow away the fumes. Who knows, to walk into the waves until nothing of them but left was the two furling smoke clouds of their inextinguishable briars.
Then I would be slapdashing home, the gravy smell of the dinners of others, the bird smell, the brandy, the pudding and mince coiling up to my nostrils.
For dinner, we had turkey and blazing pudding.
And after dinner, the uncles sat in front of the fire, loosened all the buttons, put their large, moist hands over their watch chains, groaned a little, and slept.
Mothers, aunts, and sisters scuttled to and fro, bearing tureens. Auntie Bessie, who had already been frightened twice by a clockwork mouse, whimpered at the sideboard and had some elderberry wine.
The dog was sick.
And Dosey had to have 3 aspirin.
But Auntie Hannah, who liked pork, stood in the middle of the snowbound backyard singing like a big bosomed thrush.
I would blow up balloons as big as they would blow up. And when they burst, which they all did, the uncles would jump and rumble.
In the rich and heavy afternoon, the uncles breathing like dolphins and the snow descending, I would sit among festoons and Chinese lanterns and nibble dates and try to make a model man of war following the instructions for little engineers and produce what might be mistaken for a seagoing tram car.
God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day, to save us all from Satan's power when we were gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. From God our Heavenly Father, a blessed angel came, and unto certain shepherds brought tidings of the same, how that in Bethlehem was born the Son of God by name. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
Or I would go out, my bright new boots squeaking into the white world, or onto the seaward hill, to call on Jim and Dan and Jack, and to pad through the still streets leaving huge footprints on the hidden pavements.
I bet people will think there's been hippos.
What would you do if a hippo came down our street?
I'd go like this, bang, and I'd throw him over the railings and roll him down the hill. And then I'd tickle him under his ear and he'd wag his tail.
What would you do if you saw two hippos?
Iron flanked and bellowing, he-hippos clanked and battered through the scalding snow towards us as we passed Mr. Daniels' house.
Oh, I know. Let's post a snowball in Mr. Daniels' letterbox.
Let's write things in the snow.
Let's write Mr. Daniels looks like a spaniel all over his lawn.
We three kings of Orient are, bearing gifts we traverse so far. Field and mountain, moor and mountain, following yonder star. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light.
So we walked on the white shore.
Can the fishes see it snowing?
The silent one-clouded heavens drifted us onto the sea. Now we were snowblind travelers, lost on the North Hills, and vast dewlap dogs with flasks around their necks ambled and shambled up to us, baying.
We returned home through the poor streets, where only a few children fumbled with bare red fingers in the wheel-rutted snow and catcalled after us, their voices fading away as we trudged uphill into the cries of the dockbirds and the hooting of the ships out in the whirling bay.
And then at tea, the recovered uncles would be jolly, and the ice cake loomed in the center of the table like a marble grave.
Auntie Hannah laced her tea with rum because it was only once a year.
Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled.
Bring out the tall tales now that we told by the fire, as the gaslight bubbled like a diver. Ghosts moved like owls in the long nights when I dared not look over my shoulder. Animals lurked in the cubbyhole, under the stairs, and the gas meter ticked.
And I remember that we went singing carols once, when there wasn't the shaving of a moon to light the flying streets.
At the end of a long road was a drive that led to a large house, and we stumbled up the darkness of the drive that night, each one of us afraid, each one holding a stone in his hand, in case, and all of us too brave to say a word. The wind through the trees made noises as of old and unpleasant, and maybe web-footed men wheezing in caves. We reached the black bulk of the house.
What shall we give them? Hark the herald?
No, Jack said. Good King Wenceslas. I'll count to 3. 1, 2, 3.
And we began to sing, our voices high and seemingly distant in the snow-felted darkness around the house, which was occupied by nobody we knew. We stood close together near the dark door.
Good King Wenceslas looked down on the feast of Stephen.
And then in a small, dry voice, like the voice of someone who had not spoken in a long time, joined our singing. A small, dry, eggshell voice from the other side of the door. A small, dry voice through the keyhole.
When the snow lay round about, deep and crisp and even.
And when we stopped running, we were outside our house. The front room was lovely. Balloons floated under the hot water bottle, gulping gas, and everything was good again and shone over the town.
Perhaps it was a ghost, Jim said.
Perhaps it was trolls, Dan said, who was always reading.
Let's go in and see if there's any jellies left, Jack said.
And we did that.
Always on Christmas night there was music. An uncle played the fiddle, a cousin sang Cherry Ripe, another uncle sang Drake's drum. It was very warm in the little house.
Auntie Hannah, who had got onto the parsnip wine, sang a song about bleeding hearts and death, and then in another in which she said her heart was like a bird's nest, and everybody laughed again.
And then I went to bed, looking through my bedroom window out into the moonlight and the unending smoke-colored snow. I could see the lights in the windows of all the other houses on the hill and hear the music rising from them up the long, steady, falling night. I turned the gas down. I got into bed. I said some words to the close and holy darkness, and then I slept.
Sleep, my child, and peace attend thee all through the night. Guardian angels, God will send thee all through the night. We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you so much for joining us for our show this afternoon. This completes the program, but we hope the spirit of Christmas will infuse your life for another month. Bye-bye.